Okay. Thank you, Leslie.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your busy lives to come and join us. We will jump in and I'm going to start talking about the science of writing and give you strategies that you can use tomorrow. My name is Leslie Laud and my background is I've been teaching for about 35 years. I began in the New York City public school system, and my journey at the time, Writer's Workshop, was just taking off in the schools, and I was studying at Columbia University Teachers College. And this was before Lucy Calkins, before Teachers College was associated with her. And I was studying between two departments, curriculum and teaching, where she had just come on, and human development, where there was Dr. Lynn Corno, who coined the term self-regulated learning and was deeply what we might consider leaning towards science of reading. So I had both influences when I was getting started. And I was in the New York City public schools. Workshop was taking off. It was really exciting. It was, let's get rid of the worksheets, let's get rid of boring, let's do what real authors do. And I, hook, line, and sinker, was really interested in it all. But I was teaching in an inclusion school. And I would constantly raise my hand and say, I love all this, but what do I do for my kids who need more structure? And I didn't even articulate it so clearly. I would just ask these vague questions, but what do I do about this kid? And what I'm going to share with you tonight is a 35-year journey of digging deeply into what do I do for this child, for the child who's struggling, for the child who needs more help, and what I found in the science of writing, which I've been tracking very closely for 3 decades. Back 30 years ago, you had to go up into the dusty halls of the Teachers College Library and pull out these journals and photocopy the articles to try to find what works. Now it's a whole different world. But I was all about bringing together the life, the breath of joy in the writing classroom with what is actually going to move my kids. So I will share with you that sort of divided journey that I've had for all these years, and how the science has evolved and the part that it continues to play. So I'm going to dive in now. We are a smaller group. If you have questions as we go, please feel free to unmute, because we're that small, and ask questions at any point about what I'm talking about. And I will let you know when I'm getting to points when it would be great for us to process and pause and take your questions as well. Okay, so I'm really excited to share this information with you. I always am. I am incredibly grateful to the people who came before me, who have figured out a whole lot on how to teach writing effectively. And I am always excited to share what I have learned from these people. Two that I really want to name are Dr. Karen Harris and self-regulated strategy development and all the work that she's done over 4 decades with that approach, and Dr. Charles Haynes, the author of From Talking to Writing. They've been the biggest influencers in the work that I've done. Last year, we won the largest grant. So I've been teaching for 35 years, began as a teacher, taught for about 15 or 20, and then worked as a coach. Over the past 5 years, I've been working more on the research side, and I won an $11 million. I was part of a team that won an $11 million grant last year, and we rolled out evidence-based practices for teaching writing to over 1,000 teachers. It was the single largest, or it still is going on, research study ever in the history of our nation. And I'm going to share with you the story of what we brought to these teachers and how they implemented it. I'm curious if any of you are familiar with science of writing, particularly SRSD. I do see chat is happening. If anybody wants to unmute or put into chat, has anybody heard of self-regulated strategy development, or are you aware of research happening in the area of science of writing? Just curious who the audience is. New.
It's brand new to me. Yes,
Sean Datchuk. Yes. Okay. He's doing wonderful research. He's been a real inspiration to me, especially at the sentence level. Okay. New and new. All right. So I will keep going. Great to know. Not one more. Discovered it a couple of weeks ago. Okay. All right. Just getting started. But I'm sure that you bring a lot of expertise in the area of education. Okay. So I want to start off by validating many of your experiences with the teaching of writing. Teaching writing is hard. We hear you. We are you. At thinkSRSD, we are teachers. We are teachers at the core. We are primarily staffed by teachers. And we as teachers have been deeply frustrated because we've not been adequately prepared for how to teach writing. It's not our fault. We all want to write apology letters to our early students, like, I'm sorry I couldn't teach you how to write. We were never taught. In our teacher preparation programs, we were not taught. There is not a common knowledge out there in the teacher prep programs, in schools that are bringing in PD providers. The science of writing is not well known, and that is not a good thing because we know a lot and it has not made it out to the schools. And you're not alone if you struggle to teach writing. Only 24%, that's it, of the students in our nation can write proficiently. And that is not necessary because we know how to teach it. We have the research, we have the know-how. We should not be at 24%. We should be at 96% of our students writing proficiently because we have the know-how. So we have a road, and then we have a block on that road. Why is the science of writing not making it to schools? Why are the practices that are known to work not being taught in the teacher ed programs, not being brought into schools in the PDs? I want to flip this around and share with you that we do have some good news. And the good news is that these approaches are very clear and fortunately very simple. So I am going to share them with you today. The approach to teaching writing that has the strongest research base is called self-regulated strategy development. It has been around for 40 years. It has not gained traction or scaled until we at thinkSRSD, a group of teachers, and I really emphasize that we are teachers because that is so incredibly important. We began doing the work of picking up these journal articles and then translating them into practice in our classroom. And we began blogging, writing, publishing, leading PDs locally, then leading PDs nationally for teacher to teacher. Here's what the research says, and here's how you can do it in your classroom. And after we began doing this, then SRSD began to get traction, but we call it thinkSRSD to acknowledge the teachers that have helped us to translate the bones and give it flesh and bring it to classrooms. And we call it thinkSRSD to acknowledge the contribution of Dr. Charles Haynes and from talking to writing because of how he brought in the word and the sentence level. SRSD was working primarily at the genre level, at the text structure level, and then Charlie Haynes brought in other levels that filled it out a bit and gave it more stickiness. Emily, I love that question. The writing rope, I think the world of Joan Sedita. She's a deep thinker. She's solid if I'm allowed to judge her, I think the world of her. Her writing rope is fantastic, and she comes from the same background as Dr. Charles Haynes. I think they worked together at the Landmark School. So everything that's there in the writing rope aligns 100% with what I'm going to share tonight. Joan and I have had conversations about the overlap and similarities between our work. Her book is really encyclopedical. Here is the content of what you can be teaching. Our work at thinkSRSD is that we're teachers on the ground in schools every day, translating all of that into practical step-by-step, what do I do in my classroom? So the writing rope is the list of ingredients, and we are the recipe for how to bring all that into your classroom. And the writing revolution has some very nice sentence level strategies. It's not as well developed as you move to the genre level and as you get into the complexities of how to plan and how to scaffold planning. And that's where SRSD picks up and carries it forward. They're both structured. Joan's data, I would honestly say, aligns more closely to the research. Writing Revolution has these sentence level strategies, but the overall approach itself has never been tested in a research study, whereas SRSD has. I am somewhat detached because I like them both. I was trained by Hoffman. I was trained by Karen Harris. I like them both, but I know that the SRSD approach has a lot more research to back it. That said, they work beautifully together. Thank you. Okay. So when I say that SRSD has the research to back it, I have to say this carefully because Nate Hansford just called me out on articulating this very clearly. When I say that SRSD, thinkSRSD has the highest level of research to back it, you don't want to just take my word for it. You want a citation. All of the studies, or many, I haven't kept it all up, but many of the studies are listed at thinkSRSD.com. Please be wary that evidence-based is being bandied around and becoming almost meaningless. But evidence-based does have an actual meaning to it. And it's really important to the lives of our children. I speak to you as a mother of a child with dyslexia, my child did not get the help that he needed. I had to do it at home. And the school did not understand evidence-based. So this is like very deep to the core of who I am, the importance of evidence-based practices. Many of you may know that our federal government has agencies, kind of like an FDA for education, that ranks instructional practices. SRSD meets the highest level. And by that, what I mean is it has had randomized controlled trials where 50 schools are chosen, 25 are the control, 25 are the treatment. The one group is given SRSD, the other is not. And in the end, there's a pre-assessment for equivalency. And at the end, there's a post-assessment for equivalency. And the schools or the classrooms that have received SRSD perform significantly better. And the effect sizes are very strong, like over a year's gain extra when the kids use SRSD. So that is what I mean, that this is evidence-based. Writing Revolution does not have that. Other approaches to teaching writing do not have that. They may be structured. They may have a really solid foundation, but they don't have the evidence that proves that they work. So it's sort of like comparing, I hate to say this, leaching to aspirin. Aspirin has been through clinical trials. We know it will bring down the fever. Leaching, we don't know. So it is really, really important when you look for an approach to use in your limited time with your children that you ask that it be evidence-based. So this approach does meet that level. And not only does SRSD meet that level, our schools that have worked with us, we just recently had a meta-analysis done. We will be typing it, we will be publishing it and writing it up soon. It was found that over the past years, the schools we're working with, this is one of them, the gains that they made after taking on this approach are 94% probability, not due to chance, that the schools made the significant gains that they did. So every school that works with us makes gains, and there's a 94% chance that those gains are not due to chance, which is pretty high. So this is Worcester Arts Magnet School. It's an urban school. They took this on 2012, and they had been in this 70%, 70s, high 70s proficiency, and they rose up to 85 and eventually made it to 87. This is a full district of Cumberland, Rhode Island. They ended up winning a Blue Ribbon Award. The prior school won the ESSA Award. We do find our schools win awards often because we go in focused on pedagogy. We can really move the needle. When you take on high quality instructional materials, those are good. We're all in favor, but we know that it is a roll of the dice about whether they're going to actually result in gains. They're good, I recommend them, they're structured, but they themselves will not get you gains. Pedagogy, changes in pedagogy are what will get you gains. So this district went from 40% proficient to 80 after about 10 years of using this approach. Balanced literacy alert. This is a district that took on these structured approaches before the red line, rose up, more classes jumped on. We continued to maintain high gains. And then they went back to balanced literacy. We're in a very balanced literacy state, and they hired an ELA coordinator, and she infiltrated, and the scores went right down. And I lived this. I watched it happen. So this is the framework. That was all kind of the question that I would hope that you would always ask before looking at any approach. What's your evidence base? Yeah, but what's your evidence base? How many schools do you have? How many research studies do you have? Can I visit a school that is using this that has seen significant gains in ELA outcomes? I would recommend doing all of that homework before going through taking something on. All right, so what is this approach? This approach is a framework that develops skilled, self-directed writers. And there are 3 pillars. The first pillar is power, and that is the writing process: plan, organize, write, edit, and revise. And then our middle pillar is a toolkit. And this is, what do I do when I'm planning? What do I do when I'm organizing? And we give kids tools. And then the third is embedded skill building. At the sentence level, word level, revision level, we do all of this embedded skill building. Yes, absolutely. I would love, love, love to describe the difference. So this is the framework. And I will tell you right off, the framework difference between this and Writer's Workshop is, in a Writer's Workshop classroom, you might power hanging on the wall. In this approach, it's much more rigorous. Kids will write power across the top of their paper every time they're writing and then check it off as they're going through. Number 2, in a Writer's Workshop classroom, there's more of a free-for-all. Okay, kids are all working in different places. Everybody, you can pick up your pen and go. No, in this approach, we are modeling, heavy modeling for most of the year. And we're giving really explicit, powerful tools and strategies. So as you can see in the gray here, we tell the kids that when you're in the P and power, you're going to be pre-reading to find a gist, because you want to know the main idea of what you're reading. You're going to be pulling apart the prompt with a do what. I'll show you that in a few slides. And then you're going to be picking your ideas, and I'm going to show you how to box, squiggle, underline, make notes in the margin. You're modeling and modeling. A huge difference between this and Writer's Workshop. In Writer's Workshop, Lucy Calkins might give you boxes and bullets and vaguely show you how to use them. In this approach, we give the kids something called Tide. which is an incredibly powerful mnemonic that kids can use to own the text structure that they're then going to compose in. So TIDE tells you to use a topic, important evidence, detailed examination, and an ending. It's very rigorous. And the kids know exactly what to do when they go to compose because they know I have to have all the parts of TIDE. If I'm making a story, I'm going to use the parts of C-space. In Writer's Workshop, you would either make your boxes and bullets or Story Mountain. But even Story Mountain, the kids don't know how to name all the parts. A huge thing in SRSD is deep genre knowledge, modeling it, teaching it, and making sure that they understand it and have command over it. And then we have embedded skill building that is every single day. No break, no day off. It's not hodgepodge here and there for a week or two. It's 180 days of skill building. And I'll get into examples to show you how. Great question. Keep the questions coming. All right, so this is the what do I teach? And now here is the how. And in this next slide, one slide, I'm going to give you the compass for the main shifts that are needed to be able to teach writing much in ways that make it much easier for kids and much easier and more fun for you. This is just one slide. But yet in this one slide, you're going to see the three major components that you would want to foreground every day in your teaching of writing. This really gives you a compass. I didn't know how to teach writing. I didn't know where to begin. What should I be doing with my time? Should I be giving my kids organizers? How do I teach them? These three nuggets I'm about to share with you really make it clear how we should be spending our time when we're teaching writing. So the first is you would want to on-ramp into your instruction the key tools. Like, how can you do anything without tools, right? We need tools. You need a pen, a pencil, paper, and you need these tools in order to be able to write. Not having these is almost like not having a pen and paper. And the tools are, I need to have power, not because they're cool words, but because power is what I'm going to write at the top of my paper every day for the rest of my life. I still use it now to guide me, to keep me on track, moving quickly and efficiently. I write power. I had to reprogram my brain to learn that and use that because I was never taught it in school. It's like learning how to type in a new way. I had to retrain my brain for how to compose. Then the middle tool is TIDE, and that's for opinion, friendly letter, informative, all kinds of writing. The only thing it doesn't work with well is fantasy story, and I'll show you the one other mnemonic for that. But basically, you've got power is going to be my guide. TIDE tells me how to structure my writing, and then exemplars. And an exemplar is a strong piece of writing that shows success criteria. It shows the finish line. And those are the tools that you have to on-ramp into your classroom. That is in Monopoly, that is go. Without that, I don't know how I would be scrambling. Okay, so step one, we have on-ramped into our classrooms these three critical tools. Where do I get exemplars? Your states will have them posted. We have a bunch we're happy to share, but you can't start teaching writing until your kids know. You don't want to make this a mystery. Will they copy it? Art begins in imitation and ends in innovation. So in the beginning, they may mimic. They may borrow words from another writer in order to find their own words. That's fine. Okay, we've on-ramped these, you've introduced these tools, you've gone over an exemplar, you color-coded it for the parts of TIDE, you talked about what made it strong. It only took a day or two, and now you're ready. Now you can begin teaching writing. So then we recommend that you begin with writing about texts, and that is to leverage reading and writing together. Reading is breathing in, writing is breathing out. The way that we learn academic language is through reading. We then produce academic writing when we write. Otherwise, without that reading-writing connection, all you're going to get is spoken language. Hey guys, I'm going to tell you about something really cool. Lacking in academic vocabulary, lacking in the more complex formal syntax that is written language. Written language is a different language from spoken. They are different dialects. In order to learn the dialect of written language, we need to be analyzing and responding to texts so that we are working between these two similar language. So you read your texts. They come from your HQIM, your high quality instructional materials, your windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors texts. Whatever curriculum you're using, you draw from that. And then once you have read your text, you have your students write power, as you see here, across the top of their paper, and work through all the steps in power. I can zoom in on these steps, but you just have steps like if you were learning anything. If you were learning how to install a new garage door opener, you would have a piece of paper with steps and you would follow that to know what to do. Now, if you were doing this every day over and over, you'd get so good at it, you wouldn't need that paper anymore. But initially, you need steps. So we give our writers the steps that they need to succeed. And they follow those. We review exemplars before they go to write. So first they do all their pre-reading, they take notes, they make an outline, and then before they move from the outline to the essay, they look at an exemplar from a prior week. What is it I'm supposed to do again? Right. I need a strong introduction, right, that hooks the reader. I need well-chosen evidence, right. Okay, now I'm getting ready to write on a new topic. I'm going to remember all the genre features that I need to know to do that well. And then finally, we need that self-evaluation piece. Maybe you've used rubrics before. Maybe you've shown them to students and had them try to use it as a guide. The key to a rubric is to teach it over and over and practice it and model it and use it over and over and over until the kids have fully internalized all the facets of the rubric and keep grounding the rubric back to the exemplar. Do I get that point? I don't know. Let's look at an old exemplar and see what the old exemplar did to get that point. We use this approach K through 12, all the way down and all the way up. And we try to encourage the high school teachers to go visit kindergarten because kindergarten teachers know what they're doing. They're doing interactive writing. And then after kindergarten, we stop doing that, and we should not. Interactive writing should be happening K through 12 and into college. So our kindergarten teachers are really our strongest writing teachers in many ways. But we use it K through 12. Amy, you've asked a great question here. How do we handle spelling? Let's think for a minute about the simple view of reading. In the simple view of reading, you have the two parts, right? You have decoding, and then you have listening comprehension, correct? And they are two totally different areas of the brain. Totally different. Listening comprehension is all different areas of the brain. Decoding is cracking the code. It's the Broca's area, it's the left. They're different areas, they're different skills. Writing has the same thing. You have transcription, and then you have ideation. Transcription depends on your fine motor ability to form letters, depends on your sound symbol correspondence, phonemic awareness. spelling, spacing, it's all of these kind of gateway constrained skills. Flip side of writing is the opposite side of listening comprehension, which is ideation, and it's the whole language piece, the vocabulary, syntax, coming up with ideas, higher level genre, all that stuff. And that's all unconstrained. Two totally separate areas. So how do I teach spelling? I tell schools you absolutely must have an explicit, systematic, early phonics, decoding, spelling, handwriting program in place, or we cannot work with you. Because your children need that. And there's no way around that. And they need that. I just heard Sarah Siegel speak about this from A2I, a wonderful, wonderful literacy research basis. Kindergarten, 30 minutes a day on average, at least, to get the code cracked and to get the transcription going. And then in first grade, this goes down to about 10, 15 minutes a day. And that is for your middle of the road. Some kids will need more, some may need a little less. But every day you're doing that, kindergarten and 1, second grade, you continue with some spelling. If that's all happening really well, then you've got your cracked code, you've got your transcription in place and happening. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And so we have to continue into the upper grades and catch up with it. Are any of you familiar with EBLI? Okay. So EBLI is my go-to. It's very similar to SRSD in that it's very simple. It cuts out all the noise. It's quick. But you can use any reading, writing. I mean, you can use any decoding and encoding and spelling program, and they will serve as the foundation for us then picking it up and taking it to the next step over on the listening comprehension side. We're more on the listening comp. You know how EBLI and phonics and foundations, they're all about cracking the code. They're not as much on the listening comp side. We are more so. All right, Emily is asking, can this be used as an intervention? Yes, SRSD was developed as an intervention, and then we found that it worked with all kids. Ideally, it should be tier 1, but is it doable? Tier 2, tier 3? Yes, that is how I began. It worked so fast, it blew my mind. I had to exit kids from IEPs, which I had never done in 15 years of teaching. And I was using it as a tier 2 intervention at the time. I have a close colleague, Amy Thomas, out in Colorado, who runs a school for children with learning disabilities. They use it, I think, K6 or K8. And she's got scores that would blow your mind on standardized tests for the kids who've been using this K through 6. In writing. So yes, it works beautifully on all levels. Okay, so then what we do is after you've got your kids' writing power and working in response to the text and then self-scoring, then they come back, there's a new text, and they do power again. And they go through power over and over and over with increasing independence. So here is a zoom in. And this is it. It's really remarkably simple. If we just do this over and over with a new text and a new prompt each week, your kids then know what to do and they can do this independently. I was looking at pictures from Tennessee today, a school district, and the teacher was modeling and the kids were writing. It's kind of like how they learn to walk and talk. You model it, they're practicing, and then they begin to get the hang of it and they can do all this work independently. Over at the far left, we have P in power, which is plan. And the first thing you do when you plan, the very first thing you should do is think about what's the big idea here? What's the gist? So you pre-read for the gist and you jot down a gist. That later becomes an opportunity for syntax instruction because your gist should have a who, did what, when, where, why, what happened. And then that's how you can sneak in teaching the parts of speech, moving them around. I'll say more about that. But then you have your do what. Do what? Our kids snap it out. The do is the verb. describe, explain, and then the what is what are you being asked to do. Then you go down, you pick all your ideas. And then the next panel, the second panel over, you've picked your ideas. Now you start to organize them. So in terms of executive functioning, first, you just have ideation. Then the next one is salience determination. I'm picking what's most important. I'm organizing. This is all the executive functioning. Once I've got my tide made and my language box, then I head over and I start writing my essay. Then I self-score it and revise and edit while I'm self-scoring. Are there any questions about this process? Yes, Emily, yes, yes. The gist is great for comprehension. It doubles. It has the double value. It's a way to sneak in your syntax instruction, but you've got that double value that it's also helping you to understand what you've just read. Yeah. All right, so the power cycle, again, that was the framework. This is what a power cycle looks like. You've got a text, you've got power, you're modeling and modeling until one day they're up and running. And then you're doing this in a cycle every week. Amy has put our Facebook group in. If you join now, you don't have to answer the questions. That way you can head right back into our webinar. But if you click on that and click join, skip all the questions, because if I get anybody in the next half hour, I'll just admit everybody. All right, so here are examples from younger grades. Again, we do this K through 12. And now I'm curious, what do you notice? What do you wonder? I'm going to put this up. If anybody wants to unmute or use the chat, what are you wondering? So K1, we do have a K1. This is a kinder picture. And in kindergarten, a lot of oral language, teacher transcribing, and kids doing pictures on clipboards or whiteboards. And they're drawing the phases of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. They're just putting pictures. What do you do at the playground? They draw a slide, they draw running, they draw a merry-go-round. And meanwhile, the teacher is transcribing what they're saying. And then they draw a rocket to self-score. Did I name my topic? Did I say I know facts about playgrounds? I did. And did I tell you that I like to run and I run fast? I did, and I gave you a detail. So we just bring it all the way down, but it's mostly teacher modeled. How long does the process take in the beginning? After having practiced this for a while. How long? So it depends on the grade. Kindergarten, we get them up and running by Jan, Feb. They're trying things out. They've got their letters and they're trying to begin to put their pen to paper. In the older grades, first grade, I would say by October, the kids are starting to pick up a pen and write their own pieces. By third grade, we model 2 cycles and then we test them out, and they're pretty independent. And then we model some more, and then we flip between modeling and them doing it. So how long? Depends on the grade. By third grade, I would say within 3 to 4 weeks, they're capable of doing a lot independently. Depends on what year you are. I know that by October, November, December, we'll say November, 4th grade, the kids are pretty independent and you're fine tuning. Oh, great question, Amanda. Yes, when I used this in intervention, I did exactly what you're saying. I got the text from the gen ed teacher. I did not use my own because every minute is precious, and I wanted them to be learning with me the same stuff that they were learning in class, so that the time with me could be supporting their confidence back in their classroom. So if they were reading The Lion and the Mouse, a fable coming up in CKLA, I would read that in advance with them in my small group setting, and I would have them talk about it and write about it, and I would do it before they had done it in class so that they'd go back to class confident having read it. For the older kids, for their books and novels, okay, 4th grade, the book Wonder was assigned. When my kids came to work with me, I opened up Wonder, photocopied the first page, did a close read, and had the kids describe the character traits of Augie. Yeah, when they get the instruction all through the grades, there's just no looking back. We have a school in Worcester. I showed you the data, but the human life story is that by the time the kids' 12 years had gone from K to 12 with this approach all the way through, when they graduated, we had more graduates accepted to the Ivy Leagues than ever before in the history of the school district. We had Princeton, we had Dartmouth, and we'd never had first gen kids getting accepted to the Ivy Leagues. We knew that their MCAS scores were going up every year, like through the roof to 87. But when we saw the Ivy League acceptances come, that was when we were just blown away at what happens when you use evidence-based practices that are truly meeting ESSA's highest level. And they themselves have been studied. They're not based in research and linked to other research. They themselves have been studied. What does PD look like in schools that adopt it? We have a whole gamut. So if you want the Rolls Royce and you have your ESSA funding, then you bring us in and we lead 2 to 3 days of PD and then come back in November and February and do follow-up. We meet every month with coaches and principals from all of our schools in a huge national network that we have to keep the blood flowing and keep everybody re-delivering. We try to snatch as many faculty meetings as we can. If you have zero money, today somebody wrote to me and said, we don't have a penny, but we really want to do this. And I said, okay, get the e-learning, get books for your teachers. You can get that out of your materials budget and you lead it. And you tell your district, I need 1 day of PD and I'm going to walk through the e-learning. I'm going to project it and all the teachers are going to do the activities. And we have schools that are up and running. We only began trying that in the past year or so. And I was skeptical. I was like, I'll help you. And the schools are up and running and the teachers really enjoy it. So we have a whole gamut of different ways that you can do the PD. Do the exemplars you use match up with the skill you're teaching? Yes. Amanda, I was just working on this today. Yes. We try to teach the standards. We try to teach R2 theme. I don't know if your state uses the same numbers and letters. I'll just talk qualitatively about the standards. So we teach theme, we teach traits, character analysis, setting analysis, all that. We teach analysis of mood and language. We teach analysis of text structure, cause and effect, problem solution, point of view, media analysis, analysis of an argument, and compare and contrast. So yes, the skill that we're trying to teach, we match the exemplars to that. And today we were just talking about power standards and how, come on, the questions that we always get are theme, traits, and compare and contrast. So those are our top 3, and we show exemplars and we teach that. Amanda, if you shoot me an email, I can Zoom with you and speak with you and try and help you get exemplars. The exemplars are really important. And we used to say, oh, you'll get them from your kids. You'll make them with your kids. But we've come to realize that teachers really need to see exemplars all year matched to their curriculum. So the coaches work with us. We have figured out ways to use ChatGPT. We just need to revise it a lot to make it match. But exemplars are incredibly important, and they are the heartbeat of the approach. I'm good with wait time. If there's anybody else who has questions, or if you have a second question, let me know. Okay, if you're typing, I'm gonna, oh, there it goes. All right. Do you get baselines? Yes, yes. I can walk you through. We have a little bit more time. I'll walk you through the process of how we do this in a classroom and in a school. And we have to start with baseline. We'd have to. All right, so we did notice and wonder. I will pause if I see more chat coming in. All right, so I'm now going to take you on a journey of how we would do this in a classroom or a school. We would start with a text, your text. And the very first time that we introduce this, we would collect our baseline. We do have a book, and in that book or at our website, free thinkSRSD.com, we do have pre-assessment tasks that you are more than welcome to use. Or you can use your own text as your pre-assessment, but you absolutely need a baseline, not just to know where the kids are at, but so the kids can set goals. This approach is called self-regulated strategy development. It's very much about empowering kids. And we want the kids in charge. We want the kids to do a baseline, and then they're going to later self-score it and set their goals. All right, so you've got your very first text. It's a pre-assessment. Right after the kids have taken the pre-assessment, you have your kids write a gist. And as somebody shared earlier, the gist is about getting that reading comprehension and teaching syntax. It's both. I've had people say, wait, I'm confused. Is this about teaching syntax or about main idea? It's both. So your kids are going to write a who, did, what, when, where, why, what happened statement. You can have a poster hanging in your classroom. This teacher put those parts up on magnets, and then she could move the magnets around to show them how parts of speech don't always go in the same order in a sentence. Here are kids working on gist statements. Here's kindergarten working on gist statements. And this is the book by the person, Dr. Charles Haynes, who's been very influential on our work, particularly at the sentence and word level. All right, so that was your first stop, giving a pre, having that first write. The next stop is analyzing the exemplars. Maybe some of you have seen this with Step Up to Writing, but you would analyze an exemplar closely. This is a peer piece of writing, and you would analyze it for the parts of tide. Then you would go back in and look for conjunctions, look for links, look for sentence stems, but you keep going back into exemplars over and over all year, every week. Here are kids diving into an exemplar. And here are kindergartners color coding an exemplar. And so you would post power in your classroom, and you would post tide so that your kids can remember it. And that is really step one. Now you've onboarded power, tide, exemplars, and you've collected your pre. It really only takes a day or so, but you've done that work, and now we move ahead in our journey to power. And you would model power. You stand in front of your classroom and you model using power. In kindergarten, you model it at the kinder level. Here's a first grade teacher modeling using power. Here's how I would write. She's thinking out loud. She's got a power cape. And then you begin to release. And you encourage your kids to work more and more independently. This is a moment of release. The teacher is teaching a lesson. Half the kids feel ready to go and write on their own. So they get up and walk away, go back to their desks, pick up their pencil, and they continue. This is kindergarten disclaimer. This is spring kindergarten, in case we have any kindergarten teachers out there like, whoa, what is this? This is, March, April. But you've got half your class who can transcribe. They've broken through that gate. And now they're working as a small group. They can all ideate and talk and discuss their ideas. And at least one child is writing in each group, so that person can be doing the transcribing. Here's kindergarten modeling. More kindergarten. And now heading upstairs to the 4th floor. This is your 6, 7, 8 wing. And the kids are working together in groups there. Same key ideas. Give them tools, model, have them practice all the way K through 12. It works the exact same way all the way up. All SRSD does is it gives you a compass for how to spend your time. It in and of itself is not revolutionary. You know this, you've done this, you've all taught collaborative writes, you've all given your kids mnemonics. What SRSD does is it gives you a compass for how much time to spend on each. For me, it was a dramatic shift. Sure, I had shown kids how to score. I had led a collaborative. I didn't know I was supposed to do that every day, all week, every month, all year. I did not know collaborative writing was how I should be teaching from September to June. That was eye-opening. I had shown kids the rubric. Look, here's the rubric. I did not know that I was supposed to be scoring at least once a week, and that every single time kids wrote, they should self-score. It gave me a compass for how to spend my time. A very powerful compass. Then we give kids more scaffolds as they're ready. We keep upping the ante. Okay, you've got it. No, you don't. Here's another scaffold. This will help you even more. We make it fun by giving kids songs.
Pick a topic. Organized. It was right.
So we have all kinds of songs, fun games that we do to teach power and tide and keep reinforcing it. In the younger grades, the kids are standing, sitting, they're doing topic tells what it's all about. Important details, important details, important details, my knees, and wrap it all up. We've got them moving, it's multisensory, they're coloring with different colors, they're moving. And they're writing about things that really matter. These kids, their street sign did not have a heart. And this city is known as being the heart of Massachusetts. And they didn't have a heart on their street sign. They all wrote to City Hall and they used their tide to frame their letters. City Hall thought the letters were powerful and beautiful and well-written, brought them all in. They pled their cases using tide to guide them when they spoke academic language. We would like to persuade you to please deliver a new sign. And they did. They got it within 2 weeks of the letters, which if you know Worcester urban district, that was a miracle. City Hall does not move fast, but they got those kids that sign.
Our voices are our most powerful weapons. One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen. They can change the world.
We constantly try to inspire them. Reading is consuming. That is good. You will learn. But writing is creating. And now think about the brain. Which is more powerful for the learning, consuming or creating? You can fake read. You can sit and roll your eyes across the page and get nothing out of it, but you can't fake write. And when they're writing, they have to galvanize all their energy to produce. So I want to really encourage you to think about your literacy time and think about how much time are the kids consuming and listening versus how much are they creating and producing, and shift that. Then, as we talked about earlier, after we have our kids model and practice, we then move over to the last stop in our Google journey to scoring. And Kids will score with rockets in the younger grades and increasingly complex scales as they get older. We do have analytic scales that really break down the criteria, so they know exactly what goals. There's nothing vague in our scales. If you're curious, they're all posted for free at thinkSRSD. We are federally subsidized because we've had so many federal grants. So we are a cheap date. We are cheaper than most or all other writing approaches I know out there. And we can afford to be so because the federal government is the wind at our back, regularly funding us to help us get these evidence-based practices to classrooms. So because of the federal government, I'm very grateful to 2 large grants we've gotten in the past few years. We're able to keep our website up and running, and we've got all kinds of free materials there. We have assessments, and then over at YouTube, we have the videos that match these assessments. Our YouTube channel is thinkSRSD at YouTube. And then we talked about earlier, why do we have kids collect a baseline? Somebody had asked, and it's so kids can set their own goals. After they've written a couple of pieces, they go back, they score their pre, they score their current, they fill in rockets, and they see their growth. Wow, I'm getting so much better. And then they set their next goals for how to keep growing and learning. So those are, and they put self-talk on their scales, part of the self-regulation to keep themselves motivated. And the self-talk, the way we talk to ourselves in our brain is critical. You didn't know that at the end of a Tuesday night webinar, you were going to get homework, but your homework is you can only talk positively to yourself. The way that we talk to ourselves in our mind impacts absolutely everything. And we have to encourage ourselves, and we have to talk ourselves through complex situations like how to write an essay. So we teach our kids how to do that. We teach them to be positive, to talk positively to themselves. This is our last video, but it's a really important one. Watch how he talks to himself. Remember, this is evidence-based. How we talk to ourselves is incredibly important. So whatever that you believe you're not good at or incapable, you need to just drop that and just talk yourself up. And just no matter what. I remember one night I was like, my parenting wasn't all I'd hoped it would be. And I was learning about self-talk, and I was like, you know what? From 6 to 6:01, my parenting was awesome. It was like a postcard. It was amazing. And tomorrow will be even longer. And you just have to figure out. I remember like feeling this depression of like, Leslie's no good coming over in my head. And then thinking that has no value to me, and taking the bull by the horns. Literally, I put my hands up in the air, and I said, we're going to go a different direction. Leslie's wonderful and did a great job for at least 8 minutes yesterday. And today will be even longer. And whatever you need to say to yourself, just don't let the critic speak. Done, gone, goodbye forever. No matter what, speak positively to yourself and encourage yourself on. And again, tell yourself it's evidence-based. So just to kind of wrap up, self-efficacy, the belief that you can succeed, is the greatest predictor, and we can teach kids how to talk themselves into believing in themselves. And we do that all through this program. In the youngest grades, we have self-regulation menus, and while we're practicing and modeling, we're bringing in the self-regulation. So just to recap, we have our power cycles. You have your text, you write power, you practice using it, you practice scoring. This becomes a cycle that you use over and over. Younger grades, we just bring down the text and bring down the complexity. Zeroing in, this is the big picture. Here it is at kindergarten. All year we use this. We have kids doing power cycles all year. If you use a curriculum, we bring in power right to your curriculum. On Tuesday, you're pre-reading. Wednesday, you're organizing. Thursday, Friday, you're writing, editing, and revising. In the younger grades, we've got the yellow are all your foundational skills that you're integrating in as well, but you're still modeling the POWER, all of those steps. We're integrating with core curricula. Core curricula teaches adverbs this week. So then when you do your collaborative write, you circle your adverbs. If you're doing your gist every day, you can skip a lot of the grammar activities. This is what this looks like in a 3rd grade classroom. And here is a teacher just wrapping up, telling you her experience. She teaches at a school for children with learning disabilities, and she was using this tier 2, tier 3.
I primarily work with students who struggle with writing. And so I asked them at the beginning of learning POW and TIDE how they felt about writing. And almost all of them said that they didn't like it. It was too hard. They didn't know what to write. And just the other day, I asked them if their feelings towards writing have changed. And every single one of them said, yes, we love to write now. They come in at the beginning of every class and they ask if they are going to get to write today. So I asked them what changed. And they said using the POW TIDE strategy just makes it so easy for them. They know exactly what to do. They know exactly what's expected of them. So I have turned these students who were afraid of writing and nervous to write into students that want to write every single day.
So right now, 24% of our nation writes proficiently. I believe we can flip this. And I believe that of all kids who can pick up a pencil and compose, that we can get them to 100% proficiency. We can crack through that or teach them to type. With these approaches, we can get them all. We can really flip the story of our nation. And the power cycle is what will do it. And it makes writing easy. It makes it easy for you to teach and easy for your kids to do. Any other questions?
I'll just say, Leslie, I love everything about it, and I haven't even tried it with kids. So thank you for coming on and explaining all of this so that we're excited about teaching writing. Because I know for me, that was my weakest link, because like you said, I was never taught how to teach writing. So I really appreciate all of this. This is great info, and I can't wait to dive in. Does anybody else have anything else they want to ask before we go? Yeah, the YouTube channels. Oh, and Leslie, did you want to mention something about the grants tonight, or?
Oh, we didn't get that one. We were hoping to get funded this week, and I was going to announce it that we're looking for schools. No, but we do have a support network for people who are trying to run this PD on a shoestring in their schools. We have the Facebook group, and then we have monthly coaches meetings, and we bring you in and we're trying to get you up and running, and we are applying for more grants. So we're always looking for grant partners. Shoot me an email if you'd like to be a partner on a grant if we end up getting one.
Great. Well, thanks again so much for spending your time with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And everybody have a great holiday and break from school.
Yeah, have a great holiday. Thank you so much, Amy. Have a wonderful evening. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.